Hey everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media, and it's time for another Visual Vengeance review. So last week we talked about spine number 11, Lycan Colony, one of the most fun, ridiculous things I've ever watched in my entire life. Check out my full review for my thoughts on that one. But this week we are looking at a different one entirely. This is Vampires and Other Stereotypes from 1994. So this was something. Let's get into it. Before we do though, if you have a quick second, go and hit that like button down below. That engagement really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right into my Blu-ray review of Vampires and Other Stereotypes. Alright, so as always, I'll start off with a quick unboxing. I'll make note this is spine number 12 from Visual Vengeance, so they're at an even dozen now, which is really cool to see. There is the front and the back, and then on the inside we have some new artwork there, which looks great. They're going with a pink theme on the inside here, and then let's get it opened up. So here is our disc artwork, which looks awesome. You have the stickers as always. And then we have the, this is just the poster, so we don't need to take that out. But here is the booklet, which I love when they do booklets. I think it's just fun. It feels very Criterion, so that's always cool. But yeah, this is a like 4-page, 6-page booklet, whatever it is. And so yeah, pretty cool to have that with it. And I love the artwork on the front there. But then you guys know my favorite part of all these releases are the reversible cover arts. So let's take a look here. And I love this. It's so ridiculous. But of course, this is how mine will live. There it is there. And I was trying to look on the back here. I can't remember what this cover art is from, if it's the VHS cover art or what. Yeah, original VHS art is exactly what it is. So yeah, I mean, that's awesome. So yeah, that is another really strong packaging release by Visual Vengeance. Alright, so let's start by talking about the film itself. So, Vampires and Other Stereotypes is from 1994, and it's directed by Kevin J. Lindenmuth. So, Lindenmuth will go on to do a bunch more films after this one. This is his first feature film, which is pretty cool. But he is pretty prolific in terms of like the shot-on-video genre from the 90s. So, it's pretty cool to get his first one here from Visual Vengeance. But yeah, this is a film about two different groups of people. One, we have our pair of paranormal investigators, at least that's what they're called on the back of the box here, so I'll go with that. And they are doing their job one night trying to figure out what happened in this abandoned warehouse when this group of teenagers show up. I think they're all college kids. They show up and one of them gets cut, and it happens to unleash this portal to hell. And so they're all sucked down into hell, essentially, and they are trying to survive the night. That's basically what we're following, are this group of kids and these paranormal investigators trying to survive the night. Turns out the investigators are really more like Men in Black style, but they're not trying to investigate aliens. They're investigating demons and hell and creatures like that. And so that's the type of movie that we're getting here. It was very apparent right from the start that Vampires and Other Stereotypes was just different than Lycan Colony. With this one, of course, now we're dealing 12 years earlier, even more than that actually when it came to filming, but it's just a different time. And so you don't have all the digital stuff that you get with Lycan Colony. I think that's probably a good thing, because really the reason to watch this is for the special effects. The practical effects on this are remarkable, especially for the price. I think they mentioned that they filmed this movie on like $10,000, which is just insane. And so what they're able to do with this is pretty awesome. They actually have a full company that came in. The director talks about how he met them at the Fangoria convention, I think it was, back in the 90s, and he ends up pulling them into this movie to help do the effects, and they do a great job. There's this one scene in particular where the wall is filled with heads and arms, things along those lines, and I thought it looked so cool. I feel bad for the actors because they had to sit there for hours on end as they were doing this scene, but I thought it looked awesome, so it's totally worthwhile. Now, that said, outside of the special effects, I don't know that there's really a whole lot here to sink your teeth into. I think the acting is night and day better than with Lycan Colony, but that's not saying much. Lycan Colony is the bottom of the barrel. They did do full casting for this movie, and I think they did a good job for the most part, but one of the main characters, one of the two paranormal investigators, I think is just terrible. And so I have no idea why, with all the headshots he says he got and the auditions that he did, why miscast one of the most important roles in the film, one of the biggest roles in the film. He was extremely monotone, which they do make mention of it. They call him Mr. Monotone in the beginning of the film. So it may have been a character choice, but I don't know why they would have gone with that, because it just makes the actor look like a terrible actor.
We're gonna get out of here.
Could you not open your mouth when you talk?
Other than that, I think the acting is totally fine here. Nothing great, but they're doing the best that they can with the script that they're given, which there's not a whole lot in the script going on either. It is very much trying to be like it says in the back here, like in the tradition of Evil Dead 2. This is a special effects movie. That's the reason that you're watching this, is for those cool visual effects. But other than that, I found this one to be rather slow, not as slow as one of the other ones I was talking about in the last set, but definitely a slower film from Visual Vengeance. Not one of my favorites that I've seen from them either, frankly. I don't know, it didn't catch me like some of the other films did. It's fun, but there was something lacking on this one that I really was hoping might be there with like this cover art. You just have high expectations. And again, it's cool because the visual effects look great, or the practical effects look incredible. But outside of that, I was kind of bored by this one as well. So not my favorite of their releases. So I will give Vampires and Other Stereotypes 1.5 out of 5 stars, mostly because of those practical effects. So let's talk about the disc itself, and my AV thoughts on these releases are always very quick because there's not a whole lot to talk about here. There's the warning at the beginning of the Blu-ray when you stick it in that says, hey, basically we did the best that we could with what was available. And in this case, it looks like it was an SD master from the original 1-inch tape. So they were able to take that and spruce it up as best they could. Now, that said, I think the visuals on this are fine, totally acceptable. Again, because you're watching a Blu-ray, you might have certain expectations, but because you're watching a Visual Vengeance Blu-ray, those expectations should be kept in check because this is from a tape, right? So it's not going to look great. It's never going to be, high definition. It's always going to look pretty bad, and this does. But for what it's worth, I think they do a fine job, trying to make sure that you're able to see what's going on. And for the most part, they do a nice job of that. So I think the visuals are exactly what I expect from a release like this. Same can be said for the audio. No real complaints. There may have been a couple moments where some of the dialogue was a little bit quieter, as I've talked about in some of their other releases. But again, it doesn't really matter that much. It doesn't impact my viewing experience all that much in a film like this anyway. So I don't have very many complaints on the AV side of things. I think they did as good a job as you could expect for a film like this that was shot on video back in 1994. Where this disc really shines for me is with the special features, because this thing is absolutely loaded. Where Lycan Colony may have been a little bit lighter compared to some of their releases, this one just packs them in. There are 3 commentary tracks on this, 9 interviews, plus like Super 8 films that the director did when he was back in high school and in his first year of college. So there's a ton. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to go through every single one. The commentary tracks, you guys know I'm not a commentary guy, but there is one with the director doing it solo. There's one with the actor and the director, one of the actors and the director, and then another one with Tony Strauss of Wang's Chop magazine, who I've talked about in the past because he's done a number of these commentary tracks. But on top of that, the interviews, like I said, there's 9 of them. We're not going to go one by one, but the ones that really stood out to me was the one with the director himself. I thought that one was probably the best of the interviews that I watched. That was over 20 minutes. And then there's another one that's about 25 minutes with the publicist. And that one was interesting because it feels a little bit like Get Off My Lawn-y, like him yelling at the clouds, but still, I think there's some interesting tidbits in there, and it's just a cool perspective that you don't often see in Blu-ray or 4K releases. So I thought that was pretty cool to get his take on things as well. And then there's interviews with some of the actors as well. But just a really good set of interviews. Some of them are as low as 3 minutes. Others are as long as 25 minutes. Some of them fall in the middle around 10-15 minutes. So definitely worthwhile if you are a fan of this film, or if you're just a fan of shot on video films in general from this era. There's a lot of cool tidbits in there. And then I did also talk about the fact that there's 8mm or Super 8 films on this as well. not only do you get the films themselves, which are, you know, they're whatever. It's a young director trying to learn his craft through any means necessary. So he's doing the best that he can. There is some really cool claymation style work in there, which I thought was worth talking about. But outside of that, what's really cool is the commentary track on top of this. So you have Lindenmuth talking about the films that he made, of these Super 8 films. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But outside of that, there is the booklet on the inside as well. And that is pretty much everything on here. But like I said, this is loaded. So if you love this era of film, the style, the shot on video, this is a great pickup for the special features alone. This is another release where I think Visual Vengeance did a really nice job. It's as good as you could expect it to be for a movie like this that was shot on tape in the early 90s. That said, what drags this down a little bit for me was the film itself. It's just, I didn't really enjoy this one all that much. I got a kick out of Lycan Colony. I had a blast with that. This one was just a little bit slower for me, a little bit more boring, less fun than something like Lycan Colony. So it didn't do it for me like some of the other releases have. But that said, the special features on this really shine. And so if you are a fan of this era like I am, there's definitely something worthwhile here. But that said, I will give Vampires and Other Stereotypes from Visual Vengeance 3 out of 5 stars. All right, so those were the October releases from Visual Vengeance, Spine number 11 and 12. Definitely check out my review of Lycan Colony if you've missed it, because they don't get much better / worse than that, and I loved it. But anyway, guys, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below. Have you picked up any of the Visual Vengeance releases? I just talked about a couple more that are hitting in November in my anticipated releases video. Looking forward to those as well. And a big thank you to Visual Vengeance for sending these over my way so I could share my thoughts with you guys. But again, leave any thoughts down in the comments below. I really appreciate that support. But as always, if you guys enjoyed this one, go ahead and hit that like button down below. That engagement really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media. Books, movies, video games, graphic novels, manga. If it's media related, I'm interested in it. And if you are too, you might consider subscribing. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. And I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.